what we talked about earlier with just regular fractions and decimals on a number line. And then we'll go into it on a coordinate grid. So first things first, we need to know when we are on a number line, we need to count how many intervals are between each space. So let's look at this practice problem. Okay, so let's look at the number line below. So first, I would just simply count my lines. I would not count 0 because, again, it already has a number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 would be my denominator. To determine my numerator, I just simply count the line. So this would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and 7/8. And then, of course, 8/8 turns into 1. Now, let's look at some with some whole numbers, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the coordinate grid. Okay, so now let's try this process when I have whole numbers. Again, the process will work the same way. But since I have whole numbers this time, I'm only going to count between each whole number. I will not continue all the way down to the end of the line. So let's go ahead, let's look at the first one. And then let's determine the location of each point. So again, count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that my total or my denominator would be 4. So now I would go back and simply make my fractions for each one. So just looking at my number line, I see that A is located at 3/4. Now, since I already know the pattern, that pattern would continue. So let's go ahead and let's look at that and just add a whole number to it. So 1 1/4, 1 2/4, which is also 1 1/2, 1 3/4, and then 2. So that means B will be located at 2 1/4, and that means C would be located at 3 1/2. Now let's apply what we just learned to a coordinate grid. Determine the points of ordered pair for the points below. So in this case, again, we're doing the same thing that we did earlier, but now we have rational numbers. Now remember, rational numbers can either be fraction or decimal, but we'll keep it fraction for this example. So again, looking at if we know that this is 0, skip, and then that this is 1, I have 2 spaces between. So in this case, this would be half, and then half plus half, that gives me 1 whole. So in this case, we know that each interval is half. So now let's determine what the ordered pair would be. Let's look at A. A is going over half, 2 1/2, positive, and then it did not move up or down. So my y coordinate would be 0. Let's continue. Let's look at B. I went over 1, 1, 2 1/2. So in this case, it'll be a positive 1 and a positive 2 1/2. Let's look at C. Negative 1, negative 1 75/100 because it's in between my half and my 2. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's 1 point or a negative 1.75, and then I'm going up 1 1/2. Point D, we continue that process. A half, and it's going over positive, and then I'm going down, which is negative 1 1/2. So half, and then a negative 1 1/2. Let's look at our last point. I'm going over a -3, and I'm going down to 2 1/2, both being negative.